Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out why won't Americans wear UK firefighter helmets? Question mark slash fascinating exclamation point mark point.
Hi and welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel.
Hi.
If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a dual UK and US citizen, and today we're exploring the difference between UK and US firefighting helmets.
Okay.
It's a hot topic if I've ever heard one, and I don't just mean that in a corny, joking way. Guys, there is a lot of controversy over this that I had no idea about. So,
Really?
wait. Guys, there is a
Discussion. Why are American firefighters so hostile to Euro-style helmets? Is it just a matter of tradition, taste? Which one do you think is better and why? I've read that some departments in the US are switching to modern-style helmets while they eventually completely replace the leather ones. I've always wondered why fire helmets are shaped the way they are, and I don't think I've ever had a real answer. It looks like the UK's firefighter helmets are more like a motorcycle helmet. It's protecting the sides, right? Whereas the American firefighter helmet, it doesn't go below the ears. It's like leaving all this open to burn. What, do we hate our firefighters? We want our firefighters' ears to melt off? No, we don't. Do we? Wait, do we? Knowing the American healthcare system, we probably do. Let's upgrade our helmets, y'all.
So let's get started. And if you're like, wait, why are we covering just firefighting helmets and not UK versus US fire services in general? Don't worry, that video will be made, but there's so much to go over about just the helmets that we're gonna zoom in on the helmets today.
Interesting.
So before we jump into the controversy, which, don't you say controversy in the UK? Comment below. I say controversy. But I think people here that I know say controversy. Before we jump into it and the history of firefighting helmets, let's define the differences we're talking about when we refer to the modern European helmet versus the American helmet.
Okay.
This way you can have a picture in your mind of exactly what the fight is about.
Okay.
So in the UK, British firefighters use what's known in the firefighting community as the European or Euro helmet. A popular model is the MSA F1, and it looks like this. I'm just going to call it the UK helmet from now on because it is widely used within the UK fire service, but it's also widely used throughout Europe, hence the European designation.
Let's just look at this helmet. There's a visor. It's protecting the whole head. There's a chin strap. There's a shield, right? Over this. I don't think the American helmets have that. That seems good, right? Protect the eyes and the schnoz. Yeah, let's have that.
This is a two-piece helmet made of lightweight materials that has a face shield that can be raised or lowered as needed. The shield is clear and might have an anti-fog coating inside. It's often made with polycarbonate.
Y'all, I think the reason I like this helmet is because it reminds me of a Star Wars helmet. That's why I like it.
And they have good impact and heat resistance. Obviously, I looked this up. I did not just know this offhand. They're often round in shape and have a visor and eye protection. And when it comes to comfort, these helmets have a foam padding on the inside and are made of lighter weight materials.
Okay.
In the US, the traditional American fire helmet looks like this. You can see it's distinctly different from the UK helmet.
Yeah.
American helmets have a more angular shape and are made of leather, though this is becoming a lot less common, as we'll talk about in a moment. Typically nowadays, it's made from a composite material. They usually don't...
What's with the gigantic badge on the front? That's unnecessary. That could get caught on something. Now, there is some kind of a face shield. I didn't know they had that. But it looks flimsy. And I guess there's leather going around the back into the ears. Like leather? Let's upgrade them.
Don't have much padding inside, but they do have the famous crest at the top. The wide brim at the back extends out and away from the collar, which is meant to direct water and falling debris back and away from the neck. The most iconic color is red, though this can...
Okay, that does seem like a good thing. Surely there's water flying everywhere. If the hydrants have water in them. Don't get me started. So it's keeping the water from dripping down the back of your... Yeah, okay. Probably other stuff too? Okay.
Now let's move on to firefighting helmet history, because to understand how we've gotten to a place where there is a fascinating amount of arguing within the firefighting community in the US, we need to understand a little bit more about the history of firefighting helmets in both places.
Okay, that's a British
The
one.
original style of helmet within the UK from the Victorian era to the 20th century was the Merryweather helmet, depicted here in an Etsy antique seller store I found. Side note, in case you're interested in purchasing, I was disappointed to realize that the helmet model, apparently named Thelma, is not included, so don't get your hopes up.
Hang on. Okay, so this back thing keeps the water and fire from the back of the neck. The ears are not really protected. There is a visor. No face shield, I don't think. What is this crap on the top? What's that for? Is that a vent? Is that a hole for fire to get into? What is that?
Now, Merryweather helmets were made of brass, though they could be silver-plated if you were an officer.
What? Brass? That seems like a bad idea. Wouldn't that get hot? Seems like it would get really hot and burn you.
However, electricity then became more widespread, and they were like, metal helmets are conductive and probably a safety hazard,
Oh,
so
yeah, I didn't think of
let's
that.
not.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's dangerous.
Metal helmets are conductive and probably a safety hazard, so let's not. This led to new helmets made of composite materials and then steel helmets during World War II, finally going back to composite helmets after the end of the war. This photo from 1987 shows London firefighters wearing something that more closely resembles the American style, but we can start to see that by 1999, the helmets are now looking closer to the European style helmet as it looks today. In 2009, a new uniform was rolled out for firefighters across the entire UK, again retaining that more rounded European style. In the USA, the familiar style of American helmets have been used since around 1836 when they were...
Hang on. Yeah, okay. They got the shield goes up and down, they got the chin strap on. The rest of the uniform looks very similar to the American thing, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Again, retaining that more rounded European style. In the USA, the familiar style of American helmets have been used since around 1836 when they were originally developed by a New York City firefighter. Originally, they were made from hard leather, which was tough and resisted burning, and as you can see in the design that still exists today, the high dome existed to deflect falling objects, and the long brim in the back, like I talked about, helped keep burning embers from falling into the collar. It wasn't until 1979, though, that the National Fire Protection Association actually issued the first standards on firefighting helmets in America, which meant they started to take on a more consistent shape, and over time, composite materials became used more than leather, and today, leather is seen as an old-school style helmet in the US, and some departments these days won't actually authorize the use of the leather version. However, the shape has remained roughly the same, it's just the material that the helmet was made out of. Now, in the past 5 or so years, some fire departments in the US have started switching to the European style helmet for safety reasons. There are a few...
Gray Fire Department adopts new helmets. That's it. That's the helmet. New helmets for firefighters safety in Amherst. Way to go, Amherst. Yeah. Okay.
Benefits to the Euro style helmet, which I'll let this lovely American man explain in this news section from KTAL News, based out of Arkansas.
These things just cover the top of your head, where these actually come down and help protect the side of your head and your ears and everything.
LED lights are built into the devices, and additional features like cameras and radios can be added on, all contained within the structure of the helmet.
The biggest problem you run into with these helmets is everything that's hanging off these helmets catch in certain situations.
However, here's the...
Oh yeah, there's a strap that goes around it, there's stuff hanging off. It could get caught on things. I didn't think of that.
Everything that's hanging off these helmets catch in certain situations.
However, here's the controversy. Many American firefighters and firefighting departments are hugely resistant to this change and have no plans of adopting the European style helmet, even despite the benefits. After lots of investigation of YouTube comments and Reddit threads, a theme emerged. The controversy over which helmet is best for American firefighters has less to do with the safety features and more to do with the sense of tradition. For instance, Ed Harton, a fire chief in the US, brought over a European helmet for his men to try. He stated, almost as soon as it was suggested, there was a mounting opposition against it. I was intrigued with why the helmet got such an emotional reaction to a possible positive change.
Hubris. Pride. Arrogance. American. Right? American. Our firefighters wear leather helmets. Our ears are exposed. American tradition. George Washington fought so we wouldn't have to wear full helmets so our ears could be exposed. Right? That's right.
Another fire chief, Jason, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, spoke of a test his department did with the European helmets in an attempt to keep an open mind about their features and decide which one would be the best for the department.
That's a good leader.
They found that the European helmets outperformed their current helmets, but they believed both met the basic safety standards, and they couldn't find enough data to validate the idea that the European helmet was overwhelmingly safer. His department's reaction was to ask if they could use both. One for public function and everyday use, the American one, and one to wear while they actually fight fires, which would...
What? See, whoever suggested this compromise is part of the problem. They're gonna have a uniform, public appearance, kids coming to the fire station helmet just for show, and then when they actually get down to it, they're gonna use the other helmet. That's just a waste of money. That's lying to the public. I don't like that idea.
Would have been the European style. In the end, this department decided to allow for individual choice between either helmet. Now, before you make a snap judgment and say, hey, those Americans are being dumb, just change to the European style helmets if they're better, we also need to explore the other side of the argument. Firstly, there are drawbacks to the European style as well, as explained by a UK firefighter who says, however, the European-style helmets would still melt in a normal house fire scenario, and it's possible to get stuff dropped down the back of your tunic as there isn't the overhanging rim that traditional helmet shapes have.
Okay.
What I really hate about them is the fact they cover your ears. My hearing is shocking, and because of the design, I have to have my head pointing at somebody to hear them properly. Second massive con is it tunnels the noise just as effectively when you face something very loud, like a pump.
Oh, yeah. So it's probably like wearing headphones like I am now. It like cuts off the sound from the outside, which seems like it would be a good thing. You know, with all the noise of a fire? But I guess if they're trying to communicate with each other, it makes it tough to hear. But you could put a radio in there, right? I don't know, that might be more obnoxious. Seems like there's a better way to cover the back of the neck, right? Like a fireproof scarf? I don't know. Maybe there's a conglomeration of both helmets we could use.
This problem with the design of the European helmets regarding hearing did come up in my research in other instances as well. Another perspective, as explained by another firefighter in the same thread, is that one of the big pros of the American-style helmet is that you can use them with any kind of protective suits, whereas the European-style helmet seems to be the best for fighting fires, but worse for other functions that a firefighter might need to perform, which sounds a bit silly, but if you think about it, firefighters do more than just running into burning buildings all the time, and this person's experience was that the traditional helmet found the right balance between all of the tasks it needed to perform and was more versatile.
Like what?
But let's move on from the practical arguments and onto the ones based in culture and tradition.
What other... I mean, I know there's the trope about a firefighter getting a cat out of a tree. Firefighters also spend quite a bit of time maintaining equipment, doing routine public safety inspections for businesses, training for all types of emergency responses, and filling out the reports and paperwork associated with these activities. It seems like you could just take the helmet off for doing paperwork.
Honestly, one of the main reasons that American firefighters haven't switched over to the European-style helmet is how they look. Even the British firefighter in the Reddit thread said, American fire kit looks, well, cool. I wish we had kit like that.
Really?
There's something about an iconic American fire helmet that American firefighters enjoy. They themselves will often admit it's a matter of style and taste, and until such a point where there is enough data that their lives are in a significantly increased amount of danger from wearing it, why bother changing? And the final reason that you probably won't...
Yeah, okay. So I am realizing now that when a firefighter is fighting a fire, they usually will be wearing a face mask, so they don't need the shield that comes down, right? And I guess their hearing's not as blocked with this flap. But look at the collar on this thing. That's good, right? That's good.
They themselves will often admit it's a matter of style and taste, and until such a point where there is enough data that their lives are in a significantly increased amount of danger from wearing it, why bother changing? And the final reason that you probably won't see every American fire department in Euro-style helmets anytime soon goes back to Ed Harton's quote about being interested in understanding the emotional reaction he got by suggesting the European-style helmet to his team. The emotion there came from what the firefighting helmet means to American firefighters. It's not just a helmet to them for protection, but the helmet has an entire culture around it. For instance, one Redditor mentioned that in a lot of US fire departments, receiving the traditional helmet—
Hang on, what did that say? U.S. Fire Service traditional helmets are worn for protection, but also for style, looks, prestige, credibility. It's an identity. Eurofire helmets are worn as PPE like any other industry. It's a helmet, okay?
One Redditor mentioned that in a lot of US fire departments, receiving the traditional helmet is actually an earned privilege and, as he says, is kind of a big deal. Because of the front of the American helmet, it can also be customized for your personal department or personality. So it could be a customized design that represents the pride you have in your department, or for instance, the old leather style helmets, you could flex the brim of the leather in a specific way that was personal to you. In many cultures, but particularly in American culture, the fire service is, as one article put it, a close-knit brotherhood with a shared culture that generates solidarity. Firefighter culture in the US is based on emotional fortitude, physical strength, a high tolerance of risk, technical competence, and a public service ethos. These firefighters often don't view firefighting as a job, but a calling and a culture and a way of life. To many Americans, firefighters are, in many ways, worshipped by society as heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And the helmet, then, is a representation of all of that. The thought of changing it, then, is not just based on the practical benefits, but it's an emotional threat to a sense of identity and long-lasting traditions. It's likely that more fire services in the US will slowly over time move to the Euro-style helmet as it becomes more popular in the US, but for now, because of the reasons that I've discovered, the change is slow and arguments over which helmet is best are still very much raging on within fire departments and on the internet. As always, I hope you learned something new, and thank you so much for watching.
Did.
At the risk of starting our own controversy in the comment section, let me know below which style you prefer the look of best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kaylin. Y'all be sure to go to Girl Gone London and like and subscribe. I had no idea. I didn't even know British firefighting helmets were different than American firefighting helmets. Wow. Yeah, firefighters hold a certain place in society. They're revered. They are the first responders. They're the helpers. They do a lot more than just fight fires. Actually, maybe about once a month, there's a fire truck will pull up to the building across the street from me for medical reasons. There's a lot of older folks that live in that building, and the firefighters have an ambulance. They're like EMTs, but they're part of the fire department, and they're the first to come. Actually, I've never seen an actual hospital ambulance come. It's always the firefighter ambulance. But they're usually not... Yeah, I've never seen them dressed in their firefighting suit. They always look like, they're dressed like cops or EMTs. I didn't expect the whole prestige and tradition thing to sway me as much. At first, when I was watching this, I thought it was dumb. I thought that was a dumb reason to use an inferior helmet. But now I see that it's not as inferior as I thought, and it actually instills a lot of pride in the firefighters. It's a symbol, the sword of a knight, the katana of a samurai, the coffee mug of me. Well, I don't know. Now I think maybe the British should switch to the American helmet style, maybe. If I was running into a building that was on fire, I think I would want the British helmet. I think I would. But now I'm thinking about how embers could get caught in my clothes and water would drip down there. Maybe I do want the American one. And with the British one, you can't hear as well. I feel like that could be fixed, though, right? I feel like there's a conglomeration of both designs that would make the greatest firefighter helmet. This is really making me consider things differently, huh? This was fascinating, Kaylin. Thank you. Thank y'all for watching this with me. Well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.